And we're live. Good morning, good morning, good morning.
Good morning, my friend. How you doing today?
Good. You and your cousin just firing on the Yankee text chat right now?
Yeah. When fantasy football season ends, something needs to fill the void. And
Mm-hmm.
right now, that is Yankees hot stove. And yes, that is at 5 a.m.
Do you want to talk about fantasy or you want to talk about Yankee hot stove?
I'm not happy about either, to be honest with you. So, yeah, we might as well pick either one. I mean, which one do you want us to be disappointed in?
Fantasy you can touch on for 2 seconds.
Fine.
Like you had a strong team all year
Thanks.
and then it ended.
Yeah.
Who got a goose egg for you? Cooper
Yes.
Cup?
Yeah. This is his second worst game of his career, or like tied with his worst game of career from back in, like, I don't know, 2017 or something like that. Yep. Makes no sense. Very stupid. That's fantasy football.
Do you regret taking Tyreek Hill?
No,
Over
you can't
Saquon?
regret that. You have to take him where I took him. I mean, the other options, of course, 2020 hindsight would have been better. But no, I mean, you can't kick yourself. I'll kick myself over. Well, we can go down to a freaking rabbit hole with this. I'll kick myself over my tight end selection. Because the one thing I told myself in fantasy football this year was I don't feel like getting a new tight end every week and flexing that out. I just want like stability.
Yeah.
And so I took a guy early who was stable in that he played most of the games, but he also stably sucked for most of the games.
Who was it, Kelsey?
Now, Kincaid.
Oh. Yeah. I mean, fantasy's luck. It's a lot of luck.
It is. Making it to the playoffs is all you can hope for, and then it's freaking coin toss. Ferry has a good team. My top wide receiver has 0 points. What can you do?
Yeah, I did not make the playoffs. Two of my receivers went out for the year. Ayuk and Diggs. My tight end was good. I love Brock Bowers. And that's basically the highlight of my team.
That's a big. Hey, hey, you found him.
I found him. I found him. All
Gotta be
right.
happy with that.
Any Christmas stuff going on? How's Christmas season?
I have no idea. We haven't started up yet. I think that officially kicks off. Well, it's kicked off with the lights and
Yeah.
stuff like that, but actually getting into the spirit will start maybe Friday this week, maybe this weekend.
Yeah. The sickness roller coaster for my wife and son rolls on.
Yep.
So that's
We're
been
in it
fun.
also. Had a fever for a week.
Yeah. Totally new symptoms. So we have no idea what's going on.
Yep.
Man,
Fun.
fun. Anyways, let's get to playing for keeps.
Okay.
Playing for keeps, Michael Jordan and the World He Made. Written by David Halberstam, published in 1998. Playing for Keeps is a biography of basketball legend Michael Jordan and the exploration of his impact on the sport, culture, and business world. The book not only covers Jordan's rise to fame, but also examines his role in transforming basketball into a global phenomenon and turning sports into a big business.
This book was written in, you said 1998, right?
Yeah.
I would have just consumed this in 1998. Right after Jordan's season, how old was I at that point? Whatever, 8 or 9 years old.
Yeah.
This book covers so much detail that you just don't have access to back then.
Yeah.
I watched The Last Dance. Loved The Last Dance. Watched
Interesting.
Air, the
I
Nike
didn't watch there.
documentary.
Mm-hmm.
Watched that, so picked up a lot about all that. And then we've also had so many years of these Jordan stories like starting to come out more and more so. He's even started to talk about things more and more so. It took away a lot from the book for me, to be honest with you.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Because I have an opposite opinion, and it'll probably reflect in our grades. I think The Last Dance adds to this book. It's almost like watching a movie and then reading the book. And like, oh, okay, this is that scene. This is that character. You put a name with a face. Like, I didn't know who Jared Krause was before The Last Dance.
No, but you do because of The Last Dance.
Yeah, but I get so much more information about him now.
Do you need it though? It's just more of him being an asshole.
He is maybe all-time top 5 asshole.
Asshole's the wrong word. He's dead, right?
Petty,
He's dead, right?
deranged, egomaniacal.
Yeah. Petty's a good one. Yeah, just like chip on shoulder,
Oh, the
Napoleon complex, like all that
absolute
kind of
divot
stuff.
on his shoulder.
Yes.
He, I just don't know why rocking the boat when a good thing is going is the right move.
I,
And he just was swinging that boat back and forth
yeah, it doesn't
for
make
years. For
it doesn't
years.
make any sense. You have to have something like really like psychologically wrong to need that kind of like validation, like, hey, this is mine and I can do this kind of thing.
David Halberstam gave that little line, like Michael Jordan was the popular kid on the playground, and Jerry Krause was the loser,
Yeah.
picking on him.
Yeah. I
Two
mean,
grown men, like just him taking the bus everywhere with the players, like extricate yourself from the situation. Be the GM. Be a 50-year-old man, whatever, however old
be a
you are.
50-year-old man making a ridiculous amount of money and having the best player in the world on your team. Like, how cool would that be? He
And
makes you
winning.
good every day.
His drive for credit. I thought I got a lot more insights after watching Last Dance.
I didn't need a lot more insights. Maybe if I was a huge Bulls fan, I needed that, but I'm not. I was a Michael Jordan fan. Obviously, everybody was.
Mm-hmm.
But if this was like the Knicks instead, then yeah, I would have just devoured it. But I didn't need all the extra insight about the Chicago Bulls in the '90s because Chicago Bulls in the '90s just beat the heck out of the Knicks all the time.
I think this book transcends allegiances. I think it's so. How about all the stuff like in Carolina, him getting recruited and going to these camps and Dean
Again, I
Smith
feel like
by him?
yeah, I guess you didn't get a lot of that in Air, but that's like the lore of Michael Jordan that I've heard about forever. Like I know he didn't make his varsity team growing up, and I know he was kind of like a quote unquote late bloomer. I knew the stuff about Dean Smith. Did not know the stuff about Roy Williams. I didn't know Roy Williams was like a young man on that staff and did like a huge job of like bringing Mike in and recruiting him and stuff like that.
Yeah, I thought
That was pretty cool.
the scope of this book is pretty large. I think it's much larger than just what The Last Dance has.
Oh, completely. I mean, they talk about Phil Jackson, but they also talk about like Doug Collins and the coach before that too, and they get deep into the coaches. They talk about other people in the league. Like there's a chapter, maybe not a full chapter, all about the Celtics and their team and Larry Bird and his legacy.
That was a great chapter.
It was.
I love that.
Yeah, I did like. Yeah, that was something different and good. Also, yeah, it's just the Last Dance to me is peak because it's Michael, and so you could talk about him from an author standpoint about his drive and that motivation that he gets just to piss himself off to be better. But in Last Dance, he talks about that, right? Like he says it himself.
Yeah, I think The Last Dance is the what happened. I think this is the why it happened and how it happened.
The how. Yeah, I guess I could see that. But again, it's just the lore of Michael Jordan. Like you knew about his dad. You knew about his relationship with his dad. You knew how that drove him for a long time. You know how that affected him with those later championships.
You knew about his gambling.
Yeah.
I just thought I agree. You know a lot more about Jordan than any other player, and you know how transformative he was for the league. But you found out so much about the other people in his universe in this book, like the B.J. Armstrong, the Ron Harper.
See, I feel like Last Dance did that. I feel like Last Dance picked up about that. Maybe it's because just randomly, I think it was like Friday night, an episode of Last Dance was on TV. And I couldn't help but watching it. And yeah, B.J. Armstrong is all over that. And Scottie Pippen signing, re-signing, like free agency status was in that. Yeah.
I mean, I definitely have in my notes. This is basically Last Dance, the book.
This is Last Dance minus Michael Jordan plus everything else.
So you really think it detracts from having just the word straight from the horse's mouth, Michael Jordan?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, you want to talk about this guy, again, talking about his like motivation, or do you want to hear Michael Jordan say, yeah, that guy pissed me off in 1985, so I took it to him that game. That to me was such a good piece of The Last Dance.
He's an all-time petty dude, too.
Watching a tablet of what he's doing, which is so good.
How about he wins the the NBA Finals over Phoenix in '93, and he goes, "Effing Thunder Dan Majerle, you won the NBA Finals, and you're going after some white guard in Phoenix."
Yeah, there's so many examples of that, even in like regular season games, not even the NBA Finals, where it's just an old vendetta that he just brings up, which it was very prevalent throughout this book, like many instances that they put in, more so than the last dance, but many instances where they talked about it in this book, going back to like high school and going back to his mom, I think being upset he didn't win MVP at some type of camp.
Yeah.
And then Michael Jordan taking him out
I think it was the McDonald's game. He lost the McDonald's game. MVP.
Yeah. I wasn't sure if it was McDonald's or one of the other ones, but yeah.
Yeah. I thought it added a lot to everything surrounding MJ, and I think you got a lot more of the evolution of why it happened. Because I remember knowing sports in 1998 because it was the '98 Yankees were the best team. It was Sammy Sosa, Mark McGwire. It was John Elway finishing on the Broncos.
Yep.
It was like that was a year where I kind of clicked online in terms of.
Yeah, I'm actually kind of with you there. Yeah.
So I remember watching it might have been game 6. I remember watching one game of the finals just at a sleepover, and like knowing that this was Carmelo and John Stockton versus Michael Jordan and the Bulls. But so that I kind of like hearing, kind of rereading about this era when I was looking at initially through such naive eyes. When I was a kid, I was like, how did he play baseball? Why did he play baseball? Obviously, that's in Space Jam. You're like, why did he take 2 years off to play baseball? This makes no sense. He's the best. If you're the best at something, just stay doing it. But now you get a clear reason why he left.
Yeah.
The hounding of the press must have been insane.
Yeah, I mean so to like early retirement, mid-retirement, Michael Jordan and Barry Sanders were one that actually like affected me as a kid sports fan. Barry Sanders, I might have cried.
Yeah.
Michael Jordan,
yeah.
a little younger for Michael Jordan, so I kind of heard about it once he came back. But for that, then it was like more of a celebration, like, let's go. I'm a little older now, and I can watch Michael Jordan.
Yeah. And how about him coming back in the Garden and like putting up 55 points after a year and a half off?
And wasn't that the game? Was that the game or the one before that? Maybe it was the second game where somebody – was it the Knicks? Somebody said 45, 8, and 23. Do you remember that from one of those stories? Somebody after a game came out in the press and said, hey, 45, 8, 23. So he put on 23 and scored like 40 points or something like that.
Oh, 45, 8, 23. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh. I'm surprised they didn't mention that. He came back wearing 45.
Yeah, I just remember it so much from there's a rap song.
Yeah, Jay-Z.
Might be Jay-Z. Yeah, it might be Jay-Z. It is Jay-Z.
Yeah, a couple just highlights that I have. How about them referring to him as either Gandhi, Einstein, or Michelangelo?
Gandhi, Einstein, Michelangelo, and it's a very well-known quote outside of this book when Larry Bird says, that's God. That's not Michael Jordan.
Yeah, he says it in this book too.
Because it's not Michael Jordan, and that's Larry Bird.
Jesus disguised as Michael Jordan.
So that's one thing that we could really go down a hole with this for. In terms of like best player of all time, I can't think of anybody else. Kobe, LeBron, going back to Will Chamberlain, Bill Russell. Maybe Will Chamberlain was, but I just don't remember people talking about a guy like this so much.
Yeah,
don't talk about in high school, but like the way that like this book is talking about it, and people are like, they know he's like special, they know he's like the one. It's like Anakin Skywalker, and they did a blood test. Like they just know that this is it. I don't remember that. Maybe LeBron coming out of high school because he was so good, but I don't remember it with anybody else.
Yeah, LeBron in a different way, just because he has such amazing physical tools.
Yeah, he was a man when he was an NBA man when he was 18 years old.
Correct.
Yeah.
I remember I read the Bill Simmons book of basketball, and
Huge book.
Going to
Yeah,
the top 50
7 years.
players.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, okay, so this is his stats. This is why he's better than this guy. And then he gets to top 10, and like there's Bill Russell and Magic and Bird and they're all talking about comparison to stats. And then that chapter about Jordan being the number one player, he's like, Jordan was a killer. Like, it was just about his mindset. It was like he was an assassin. He wanted you dead. He wanted to bury you.
Yeah, that's a lot in this book, where even if they write the same type of book about Kobe, LeBron, Will Chamberlain, like whoever's in your top, whatever, it's not going to be like this book. I don't think. It just can't be.
Yeah, they're totally different people. Like, not players, people.
Yeah.
That's why reading this book, I read it being like, kind of telling kids that you can be anything you want to be is kind of a huge lie, because a kid cannot become Michael Jordan.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, a sweet little kid cannot become Michael Jordan. I'm sure he was sweet growing up. I'm sure he was like, but he was born with incredible athletic ability, enormous hands, lightning fast reflexes, amazing athleticism, and just the mind to bury someone.
The mindset too. I mean, that's a big part of it. Like, yeah, he had like an older sibling, and his dad might have been tough on him, and his mom seems pretty tough too. But it wasn't like he was born in like a military family where he was just like his face was buried in the ground and he had to get up every day. Like, he wasn't coming from the slums. Like, he wasn't playing for bread, so to speak.
No.
It seemed like his parents did pretty well. So yeah, he was born with that. It was innate.
Self-driven.
Yeah.
A couple other things I just want to add. Well, David Halberstam does not say one bad word about Michael Jordan, the player. He's like, he would have terrible game shooting, and he went 5 of 23, but God, he put the team on his back. God, was he special.
Basketball was different then. I felt you could control more of the game without having to shoot and score 30 points.
Yeah.
I mean, I do not doubt that if Jordan went, 3 for 18, defensively, he was probably more of a menace than any other time if he was down. Yeah. And you could win a game scoring 90 points. So, if he scores 12, that's the same as somebody scoring, 25 on a 120-point game.
Yeah. And also when he was like, when MJ would like do something good, he was like, only Michael could do this. I'm like, yeah.
It's 1998 when he wrote the book. Got to remember.
That is true.
Basketball was not as athletic then as it is now.
So that's one thing I thought of. Like, I don't think a Michael Jordan can come, because the difference in athleticism between Michael and the average NBA player in the late 80s, early to mid to late 90s is such a bigger gap than a stud athlete coming in to the draft against today's NBA player.
A stud coming into yeah, I'm with you.
Like, the difference is much larger.
Yeah.
Than now.
Yeah, but I always like having a hard time with that era. Like, if you want to make that conversation an argument, you can't take a person from that era and move them to this era. You have to imagine that person being in this era from start.
Yeah, okay.
Like, imagine Michael Jordan was born in LeBron is what, almost 40? So imagine Jordan being born in like 1985, whatever. He would be like even better. I mean, he would probably be even better.
How do you think he would be even better? Because he's playing against tougher competition now.
But he would live and play competition throughout his whole life. Like, he would ascend to that higher competition.
That's frightening to think he could ascend higher.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, I mean, he might have been limited by the time period he was in, actually, and he's the greatest player of all time.
Well, one thing for sure limited him with his point totals was not shooting threes, because they just didn't figure out how valuable shooting threes were.
And he still averaged almost 30 points a game for his career. So let's throw that one out there.
All right, a couple other things.
Actually, he might have averaged 30 points for his career. Isn't it 30.1?
He might have. I don't know. I'm not he was quite possibly the best dressed American male since Cary Grant.
Yeah, I've heard that one before.
I don't know if that holds up anymore.
A hat that he would wear sometimes too. Yeah.
like the acid wash, like Jinko jeans and everything.
This guy does talk about that a lot, actually. I get he talks about it more from like the marketing side of things, but he was just like, yeah, you have like Larry Bird, but you couldn't market him this way. Michael Jordan was just like good looking, handsome guy with a smile that would blow the lights out of Broadway.
You call him beautiful maybe 10 times in the book.
Yeah. I know. There's like
Beautiful.
this godlike.
It's very Achilles-esque. Like this
Yeah,
epic
godlike.
tale
Yes.
touched by the gods who was just a perfect human and an absolute killer. I forgot that Terry Francona was MJ's manager in the minors.
Oh gosh, yeah. Yeah, that doesn't. I guess that was 1994 or so. Yeah, I guess that checks out from a time frame standpoint.
A crazy, connection there. And then the Bulls going 13-4 after MJ comes back from playing baseball, second half of the or last third of the year. I mean, just pick up right where you left off. Also playing that one-on-one game against BJ Armstrong in street clothes and beating him. Like, can you imagine beating an NBA player in one-on-one?
After not playing basketball? Yeah, no. The 13-4 coming back thing also is kind of more to my point about how he could play in just any generation because, yeah, he could get up off the street after 2 years not playing competitive basketball and be the best player.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, you gotta
I think someone says, like, he'll be fine. You are who you are. He's a basketball player.
Yeah, you put him in any generation, he is still the same.
Final little tidbit. Also, Phil Jackson comes out great in this book.
Yeah, comes out great in this book.
He handles Rodman. He handles Krause. He kind of sees the writing on the wall.
Yeah, I mean, his Bulls years were special, like super special.
Yeah.
Even the season when Jordan wasn't there for the first one, where they still made it to, I think, the conference finals. They said, like, that's his best coaching job ever. Yeah, he does come out as kind of like a perfect – I want to say perfect basketball coach, but a perfect manager of men, perfect manager of, like, different egos, different personalities and things like that, which I think everyone always said about Phil Jackson, like he was a hippie, he was a philosopher, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
God, I wish he was like that with the Knicks. Oh.
That was a disaster.
That was a disaster.
I didn't realize how much like point guard Pippen played. I know the triangle doesn't really use a traditional point guard, but he held the ball a lot.
He was the distributor. Yeah, that was kind of his job on that team.
All right, I got nothing else. Those are my notes.
Anything else besides that I picked up? The golf stuff was pretty cool, but those all folk stories, like you can see them on like Instagram and Twitter now, just like old people talking about them. I do like how he said like Michael was so unique in his metabolism. It was talking about like his inner like eating, how he processes food into energy, where he could play 54 holes of golf and then play 60 minutes of basketball.
How do you think that meeting between a golf hustler and Jordan goes?
I think that person would be happy if you're out hustling Michael Jordan for like 15, 16 holes, but then you realize your day is not going to end and you're going to be in hell.
Like so I'm guessing Jordan has already played at 18. He's having a beer at the 19th hole, and he sees a guy walk up with clubs, and a guy walks with clubs, say, "Hey, anyone here play for money?" And Jordan, I do.
I've got more of it than you can imagine, and I'll be here all day.
Yeah, it's phenomenal. All right, you want to get into your grades? I have a little reasoning behind my grade, but you go.
Yeah. I did. Yeah, I mean, from a title figure, Michael Jordan's awesome to write about and read about. So that moves this up there for me. It covered a lot else. So if I was just picking up and reading this, it wasn't the easiest read. You have to get up through a lot of like contract situations, coaching situations, Bulls management decisions, marketing stuff when it comes to like the Nike deal and all that kind of stuff. So there's a lot pulling this book back for me. Let's say that.
I loved all that stuff. I loved everything you just mentioned.
Yeah, really. All right.
Yeah,
Well,
we're
then
gonna have big difference in scores.
that pulls it back for me. So I'm like a 4-5 for this.
Wow. I will suggest a book that you will like one of these times.
No, that's true. I did like this book, but if I hadn't watched Last Dance, this would probably be like a 7 or 8 for me.
Yeah, I think that The Last Dance is a big inflection for us because I think it added and you think it subtract. So
if you're talking to somebody today, right, and you're saying, hey, you want to know about Michael Jordan, either read this book or go watch Last Dance. I'm Last Dance.
I'm this book by far.
Yeah, no, we're differing there big time. Yeah.
I think this is better than The Last Dance. I think this adds to The Last Dance. Last Dance is great, and you should watch it just for his. I would do basically this book and watch like.
I'd agree with you there that it does add to The Last Dance.
I was going to give this my highest nonfiction score.
Wow.
But I thought the end where they just go, he goes through game by game of the 98 playoff run was kind of like going through some drudgery there. I can see how each team was a unique matchup and why they caused trouble for this aging Bulls team. But I'm just like, okay, let's beat the Pacers, and then
he wrote it right after that too. So maybe you assume that during that time people didn't watch every game like they do now, and like the readers, might have missed that game or something like that. But yeah, that really does kind of drone on. It's
like he's going over first half versus game 2 of the Pacers. I'm just like, okay, like they're gonna win. Let's like we can summarize this. We don't need to go through
to cover. Yeah.
So I was gonna give it a very high score. I'm still gonna give it a pretty high score. I'll give it a.
Did not realize I gave it a 4-5, and that was his number when it came back. That was accidental. Did not mean to do that. Just caught it.
I was gonna give him a 9.8 for the 98 season.
Ooh.
But that's too high for this book. I'm giving it
a 96 for the night because the 96 season was their best team, right?
Yeah, I don't think it's a 9.6.
70 and 12.
I think it's an 8.
Really, any year in the 90s, in the 90s, and you can put Michael Jordan on it.
Yeah. 8.6 for me, 4.5 for you.
Oh, 8.6.
Yeah, 8.6.
First year. So wait, he graduated Carolina, came out in the 86 draft.
No, because it was 86.
Ewing was 84. Was he the 85 draft?
Yeah, he might have been. He was earlier. He was either 83 or 84. Because I know he played.
Another little piece about this, actually, though, just being a Knicks fan, they do put some shine on Patrick Ewing. Patrick Ewing was like the best player in the country, even when Michael was in college, because he was a big man and all that kind of stuff. They did put some nice shine on some other players besides Michael Jordan in this.
There's great context to this book.
Yeah.
I loved hearing about everything in this universe. I thought this book was super good. Super, super good. I would recommend it to basically any Bulls fan, basically anyone who wants to know. If they like The Last Dance and want to know more, read this book. If you like Michael Jordan, read more. If you like the NBA, you have to read this book because it's basically the building of the modern NBA.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it covers the generational gap between, you could call it like it was, well, they covered it too, like the ESPN chapter.
Yeah, that was great. That was good. This book was so good.
I know, but I never got it just, again, like I remember watching a documentary about the starting of ESPN at like their 25th anniversary or whatever it was.
Yeah.
So like
you think you could go to other places to find the side story?
Yeah, and I have. Yeah, like it's, again, when this book came out in 1998, it was probably like transcendent, like gotta read it, awesome stuff. But now things have come out to take individual pieces of this book and then focus on it themselves. So you have Last Dance, you have Air, you've got the ESPN special. I was just thinking about things before, but now I'm forgetting. Whatever. There's other things.
YouTube. Obviously, all YouTube.
Yeah,
in
everything.
highlights.
Watch all of the like interviews that have come out from like Jeremy Roenick, I think, had one. I listened to a podcast with Danny Ainge where they were talking about Michael on the golf course. So yeah, there's been a lot of these stories that have come out.
Awesome. All right. We got our scores in there. We got Going Infinite. We'll probably take a week off for Christmas because that's
good idea.
And then I put some potential books on there.
I added one too that I just came across recently because it's this TV show that I was obsessed with that I didn't realize come from a book.
Born Fighting?
No,
that's not good.
Last Kingdom.
Last Kingdom. Why does that sound familiar?
Because it's an awesome TV show on Netflix that I've probably told you about a million times.
Oh yeah, that's the one with Uhtred.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah,
book.
I love that. I love that. That's nonfiction or it's fiction. It's gotta be
So I
fiction.
didn't know how to describe it. So apparently the author like traced back his family line to like this time period and family, and so there is like some truth to it. Obviously, Alfred is like a real person and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a little bit of a mix, which is why I'm very curious to add it to the list. It's a huge series too. I think the series is like many books. So I don't know if we want to get to it right away, but that's definitely one I want to get to at some point.
Book. Yes. This week I went through New York Times bestseller list of just the number one or bestsellers from the 80s to the 2000s. There's so much John Grisham on there. It's John Grisham, Stephen King.
I know.
Oh my God. A lot of Tom Clancy.
Yeah.
We have a lot of books. I want to see. I gotta be honest with you. I love a little bit of a shorter book.
We could do. You want to mix it up? Short book, easy read, fun read. We kind of haven't touched a classic in a while. You want to do Old Man and the Sea?
Yes. Let's do Old Man and the Sea. Or you want to say that for boat month?
Oh yeah, forget. We got other boat books though, don't we?
I was thinking about doing On the Road by Jack Kerouac. I think that's a pretty short.
All right.
I've never read it.
Okay.
Let me see. And then also, I looked up the Cold Mountain book. I know it's a movie. It's basically the Odyssey set in the Civil War. That was it's a fiction book. We haven't done fiction in a little bit.
I've never read that. The movie sounds familiar. I would be on board with Old Man on the Road or that.
Let me just do. Yeah, let's just do both those. Let's just do them back to back. Or do you want to pair subjects?
That's kind of pairing time frame more so.
No, On the Road is like the 50s. Cold Mountain is 1860s.
Oh, Cold Mountain. No, I'm sorry. I thought you were talking about Old Man and the Sea. I was talking about like when they were written. They were both written kind of like back then.
Let's do On the Road, and then we'll figure out the next one.
All right. Yeah. So we have one going now, week off, On the Road. So we're still covering like 3 weeks here.
Yeah, exactly. And then we can talk. A lot of good books on the potential book list.
Yeah, we haven't even scratched the surface there. Just looking over that one time I did, things were starting to pop.
Even I want to read. What do you think of this writer? What do you think of Halberstam?
Yeah, I would read another one of his. I was actually going to say that when I was looking through his like the first page of all of his other books. It looks like he covers various subjects too, like not just sports and basketball. So I would be interested in reading another one of his.
I think he'd definitely be revisited. That Boys of Summer or something, Summer 49, Yankees Red Sox. And I think it's like the Ted Williams, Joe DiMaggio batting average versus hit streak.
Yes.
That's
World War II, which is a very, very cool period.
Okay, cool. We got a week off. Then we got Going Infinite, Michael Lewis about
crypto.
And then we got Jack Kerouac On the Road.
Yeah. All right. Good stuff.
Take it easy, buddy. Have a good one.
All right, man. You too.